From a Golden Gloves boxer playing a radio DJ to a hospital bed serving as an actual film set, the beloved 90s sitcom, Martin harbored secrets that would make even the show's zaniest episodes seem normal. Behind Martin Lawrence's multiple character performances and Brewman's window entrances lay production mysteries, real-life dramas, and bizarre coincidences that shaped one of Fox's highest-rated shows in ways viewers never imagined. Fact 1. Brother Man's math error. One of the most endearing and completely unintentional running gags in Martin came from a character who could never quite get his math right, and somehow that made him even more lovable. Brewman from the Fifth Floor, played by actor Reginald Ballard, had a very specific way of introducing himself that became his trademark catchphrase throughout the show's run from 1992 to 1997. Every single time Brewman appeared on screen, he would announce himself by saying, "I'm Brewman from the Fifth Floor," while confidently holding up his hand to show exactly how many floors up he lived from Martin's apartment. The problem was that Brewman consistently held up only 4 fingers instead of 5, creating a mathematical contradiction that somehow perfectly captured the character's laid-back, slightly confused personality. What makes this detail even more fascinating is that it appears to have been completely unintentional on the part of the writers, directors, or even Ballard himself. There's no evidence in any scripts or behind-the-scenes interviews that this was written as a deliberate joke about the character being bad at counting. Instead, it seems like Ballard simply made this gesture during his first appearance, and everyone either didn't notice the discrepancy or found it so perfectly in character that they decided to keep it going. The finger-counting error became such a consistent part of Brewman's character that fans of the show began to notice and discuss it, turning what was likely an accidental mistake into one of the show's most memorable and quoted character quirks. Reginald Ballard, who brought Brewman to life, was actually a former college football player who had earned a full scholarship to Southern Methodist University before transferring to the University of Missouri, where he continued playing football while also pursuing theater. This mathematical mishap perfectly embodied Brewman's character as someone who was always just a little bit off, but in the most endearing way possible, making his frequent uninvited visits to Martin's apartment through the fire escape even more charming to audiences who came to love his confused but well-meaning presence on the show. Fact 2. Hospital bed became film set. In one of the most unusual and heartwarming examples of dedication to a television show, the writers and producers of Martin literally brought their cameras into a hospital room to film a crucial scene while one of their actors recovered from a traumatic real-life incident. Garrett Morris, who played Stan Winters, Martin's eccentric and cologne-obsessed boss at radio station WZUP, was shot during a robbery attempt in 1994, and the show's creative team found an incredibly unique way to handle his absence. Morris was the victim of what he described as an apparent robbery, where the attacker shot him in his intestine, causing severe injuries that required him to undergo 10 major operations over the following months and use a colostomy bag for about 8 months while he recovered. The shooting happened during the show's second season, and Morris was unable to continue filming his regular appearances as the quirky radio station owner who was known for his outdated 70s wardrobe and his tendency to surprise Martin with increasingly ridiculous business schemes. Rather than simply writing Morris out of the show temporarily, or having his character disappear without explanation, the writers came up with a creative solution that allowed them to address his absence while incorporating his real-life situation into the storyline. They wrote a scene where Stan Winters would undergo plastic surgery as part of a plot to escape trouble with the IRS over $20,000 in unpaid taxes, which would explain why the character needed to disappear from the show. The remarkable part of this story is that the writers and production team actually filmed this crucial scene in Morris's actual hospital bed while he was still recovering from his injuries. This meant that the cameras, lighting equipment, and crew members all had to be brought into the medical facility to capture the footage they needed to explain Stan's departure from the series. Morris later returned for one guest appearance in Season 3, where his character was shown walking with a cane, which reflected his real-life injuries from the shooting, though the show explained his limp by saying Stan had been in a car crash during a police chase rather than revealing the true circumstances of Morris's recovery. Fact 3. Martin's boxing past was real. Long before Martin Lawrence became known for his comedy and multiple character performances on his hit sitcom, he was actually throwing real punches in boxing rings as a serious amateur fighter, which makes one of the show's most memorable episodes even more fascinating when you know the backstory. During his teenage years, Lawrence was a Golden Gloves boxer who had legitimate skills in the ring and even came in as runner-up in the New York Golden Gloves competition, along with winning an AAU championship. This boxing background becomes incredibly ironic when you watch the Season 2 episode called Guard Your Grill, which aired on February 27, 1994, where Martin gets completely demolished by legendary professional boxer Tommy, the Hitman, Hearns in what was supposed to be a charity boxing match. The episode was written by Martin Lawrence himself and featured the real Tommy Hearns, who was one of the most feared fighters of his era and held world titles in 5 different weight divisions during his professional career. In the episode, Martin's character becomes overconfident after winning a charity boxing match and starts trash-talking to Tommy Hearns, thinking the professional fighter is making moves on his girlfriend Gina. Martin believes Hearns has left town to avoid confrontation, only to discover that Hearns has actually accepted his challenge and shows up ready to fight in the ring. The result is exactly what you'd expect when an amateur faces one of boxing's greatest champions, with Martin taking a serious beating that provided some of the show's most physical comedy. The fascinating part is that Lawrence's real boxing experience meant he actually understood the sport and could handle himself in the ring during filming, even though the episode was scripted for him to lose badly. His background as a Golden Gloves competitor gave him the knowledge of proper boxing technique and ring movement that made the fight scenes more authentic, even as his character was getting thoroughly outclassed by one of the sport's legendary figures. Lawrence has mentioned his boxing past in various interviews over the years, including an appearance on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, where he discussed how his athletic background influenced his physical comedy style and helped him with the demanding physical performances required for his various characters on the show. Fact 4. 9 characters, 1 actor. Martin Lawrence's incredible range as a performer became one of the defining features of his sitcom, as he transformed himself into a total of 9 completely different characters throughout the show's 5-season run, each with their own distinct personality, voice, and physical mannerisms that made audiences forget they were watching the same actor. This wasn't just a matter of putting on different costumes or changing his voice slightly, but rather creating fully realized characters that became fan favorites in their own right and contributed significantly to the show's comedy and cultural impact. The most famous of these alternate characters was undoubtedly Shanine Jenkins, Martin's sassy female neighbor who worked as a cosmetologist and always reminded everyone that despite her rough exterior, she was still a lady. Shanine became so popular that she appeared regularly throughout the series and even had her own segments on Martin's fictional television show within the show. Then there was Mama Payne, Martin's tough-talking mother who didn't play games when it came to protecting her son and was always ready to get to slicing if anyone crossed her family. Jerome, known as the original playa from the Himalaya, was another standout character who brought his own theme song and gold grills whenever he appeared, representing the smooth-talking ladies' man persona. Dragonfly Jones served as a parody of martial arts instructors and self-defense experts, often appearing in episodes where Martin needed to learn how to fight or defend himself, though Dragonfly's techniques were usually more comedy than practical combat. The other characters in Lawrence's repertoire included Roscoe, an elderly man who often appeared in flashback sequences or dream sequences; Bob from marketing, a white corporate employee; Elroy Preston, who appeared in various business-related scenarios; King Beef, a larger-than-life character; and Old Otis, who rounded out the collection of personalities that Lawrence could seamlessly slip into during episodes. What made these character transformations so impressive was that Lawrence didn't just rely on makeup and costumes, though those elements certainly helped, but rather developed completely different vocal patterns, body language, and comedic timing for each persona, allowing him to essentially have conversations with himself on screen and create entire storylines around these alternate versions of the main character. Fact 5. Real song from fake performance. In one of the most clever examples of blending reality with fiction on Martin, What appeared to be simply Gina performing a song for a talent show was actually a showcase for Tisha Campbell's real music career, as the song "Push" that her character performed in the variety show episode was an actual single that Campbell had released as a recording artist in 1993. This created a unique situation where the audience was watching a fictional character perform what was essentially the real-life actress's own professional music work. Tisha Campbell had been pursuing a music career alongside her acting work long before she landed the role of Gina Waters on Martin, and she had already established herself as both a singer and performer in various projects throughout the 1980s and early 1990s. Her musical background included everything from her early work in the 1986 movie Little Shop of Horrors, where she was part of a singing trio, to her solo recording efforts that resulted in the release of "Push" as an official single. The variety show episode provided the perfect opportunity for the show's writers and producers to incorporate Campbell's real musical talents into the storyline, allowing Gina's character to showcase her singing abilities while simultaneously giving Campbell a platform to perform her actual recorded work for the show's audience. This wasn't just a case of Campbell singing a cover song or performing something written specifically for the episode, but rather a deliberate decision to feature her legitimate recording career within the context of the show's fictional world. What makes this integration even more interesting is how seamlessly it fit into the show's established character dynamics and storylines, with Gina's musical performance serving the episode's plot while also functioning as a genuine showcase for Campbell's vocal abilities and artistic work. The song "Push" itself was part of Campbell's broader efforts to establish herself as a recording artist during the same period when she was gaining recognition for her acting work on Martin. This blending of Campbell's real music career with her fictional character's talents created a unique viewing experience where fans of the show were essentially getting a concert performance from the actress while watching what they thought was simply another episode of their favorite sitcom. Fact 6: Take 6 sang the later theme. In a surprising musical shift that many viewers might not have noticed, the beloved theme song that introduced Martin during its later seasons was actually performed by Take 6, a Grammy Award-winning a cappella gospel group known for their incredible vocal harmonies and spiritual music, which was quite different from what you might expect for a comedy sitcom. Take 6 replaced the original instrumental theme that had been used during the show's first 3 seasons, bringing their signature vocal style to the opening credits of seasons 4 and 5. Take 6 was formed in 1980 on the campus of Oakwood College in Alabama, and had already established themselves as one of the most respected vocal groups in contemporary gospel and jazz music. Theme song. The group consisted of 6 vocalists who created complex harmonies without any instrumental backing, and they had won multiple Grammy Awards and worked with major artists like Quincy Jones, Whitney Houston, and Stevie Wonder before lending their talents to the sitcom. The decision to bring Take 6 on board to perform the theme song represented a significant change in the show's musical identity, moving from a purely instrumental opening to one that featured the group's sophisticated vocal arrangements and gospel-influenced harmonies. This change coincided with the show's evolution during its later seasons, as Martin had become one of Fox's highest-rated programs and was attracting bigger names and more elaborate production elements. What makes this collaboration particularly interesting is how Take 6's spiritual and uplifting musical style contrasted with the often irreverent and sometimes chaotic comedy that characterized Martin's storylines, yet their vocal performance somehow perfectly captured the energy and spirit that made the show so popular with audiences. The group's ability to blend jazz, gospel, and contemporary R&B elements in their a cappella arrangements brought a new level of musical sophistication to the show's opening sequence. Take 6 has since shared memories of recording the Martin theme song, describing it as one of their more unique projects, given the difference between their usual gospel-focused work and the comedic nature of the television series. Though they embraced the opportunity to reach new audiences through their participation in the popular sitcom. Fact 7. Detroit location. In an era when most television shows were filmed on sound stages in California and simply pretended to be set in other cities, Martin took the unusual and expensive step of actually filming on location in Detroit, Michigan, giving the show an authentic atmosphere that most sitcoms of the 1990s couldn't match. This decision to film in the actual city where the story took place was relatively rare for television productions at the time, as it was much more cost-effective and logistically simple to shoot everything in Los Angeles or New York studios. The choice to film in Detroit wasn't just about authenticity, but also reflected the show's commitment to representing urban African-American culture in a way that felt genuine rather than manufactured on a Hollywood backlot. Detroit's distinctive architecture, neighborhoods, and overall urban landscape became an integral part of the show's visual identity, providing a real backdrop for Martin Payne's adventures as a radio DJ and later television host living in the Motor City. This location filming meant that the cast and crew had to travel regularly between Los Angeles, where much of the entertainment industry was based, and Detroit for various scenes and episodes throughout the show's 5-season run from 1992 to 1997. The production team used actual Detroit locations for exterior shots, street scenes, and establishing shots that helped viewers feel like they were really experiencing life in the city rather than watching a generic urban setting that could have been anywhere. The decision to film in Detroit also had economic benefits for the local community, as television and film productions bring jobs, equipment rentals, catering services, and other business opportunities to the areas where they shoot. Local residents sometimes appeared as extras in crowd scenes or background shots, and the production hired Detroit-based crew members and service providers whenever possible. This commitment to authentic location filming helped Martin stand out from other sitcoms of its era, and contributed to the show's ability to capture the specific cultural and social atmosphere of Detroit during the 1990s. Rather than presenting a sanitized or generic version of urban life that might have resulted from studio-based filming in California. Fact 8. Gary Coleman's terrifying twist. One of the most unexpectedly brilliant casting decisions in Martin's history came when the show's writers decided to completely subvert Gary Coleman's wholesome child star image by casting him as one of the most menacing villains in the series, creating a comedic contrast that was both hilarious and genuinely unsettling for viewers who remembered him from Different Strokes. In the Season 3 episode titled High Noon, which aired on March 9, 1995, Coleman played a character named Mad Dog No Good, an ex-convict who had been pursuing Martin after being released from prison. The episode's plot revolved around Martin learning from the district attorney that this dangerous criminal, whom Martin had helped put away years earlier, was getting out of jail on parole and had been watching Martin's television show while incarcerated. Mad Dog calls Martin live on the air during his show to let him know that he's been released and wants to meet with Martin face-to-face, creating a tense situation where Martin's friends all abandon him once they learn who's coming after him. What made Coleman's casting so effective was the complete disconnect between his public image as the lovable Arnold Jackson from Different Strokes and the intimidating presence he was supposed to represent as Mad Dog No Good. Throughout most of the episode, Mad Dog is only heard as a voice on the phone or referenced by other characters who speak about him with genuine fear and respect, building up the audience's expectations for this supposedly terrifying criminal who has everyone in Detroit running scared. The comedy payoff comes at the episode's climax when Mad Dog finally appears in person, and viewers discover that this supposedly fearsome criminal mastermind is actually Gary Coleman, all 4 feet 8 inches of him, delivering his lines with complete seriousness, while everyone around him reacts as if he's the most dangerous person they've ever encountered. Coleman played the role completely straight, never winking at the camera or acknowledging the absurdity of the situation, which made his performance even more effective. This casting choice represented a perfect example of Martin's ability to take familiar pop culture figures and use them in unexpected ways that served both the show's comedy and its storytelling needs. Fact 9. Gina's sorority colors revealed. In a subtle but meaningful detail that many viewers likely missed, the old-school loving episode contained a deliberate clue about Gina's college background, when she decided to redecorate her and Martin's bedroom using pink and green as the color scheme, explaining that these were her sorority colors, which immediately identified her as a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. This detail was particularly significant because Alpha Kappa Alpha is one of the most prestigious and historically important African American sororities in the United States, founded in 1908 at Howard University. The writer's decision to include this reference wasn't just a random detail about interior decorating, but rather a way to add depth to Gina's character and establish her educational and social background without having to explicitly state that she had attended college or been involved in Greek life. Alpha Kappa Alpha, often referred to as AKA, is known for its distinctive salmon pink and apple green colors, which have been the organization's official colors since its founding over a century ago. For viewers who were familiar with historically black Greek letter organizations, this color choice would have immediately communicated important information about Gina's character, suggesting that she had not only attended college, but had also been involved in one of the most selective and respected sororities in the African American community. Alpha Kappa. Alpha has a long tradition of emphasizing scholarship, service, and sisterhood, and its members often maintain strong connections to their sorority throughout their lives. The episode's plot revolved around Martin getting Gina fired from her job, which led to her wanting to make changes in their living space, and her choice to use her sorority colors for the bedroom renovation served as both a personal statement and a way for the character to reconnect with an important part of her identity during a difficult time. This kind of subtle character development through seemingly minor details was one of the ways that Martin managed to create fully realized characters while maintaining its focus on comedy. The reference also reflected the show's broader commitment to representing authentic aspects of African American culture and experience, including the important role that historically black colleges and universities and their associated Greek organizations play in many communities. Fact 10. Big Shirley's continuity error. One of the most dramatic character transformations in television history happened to Cole's on-and-off girlfriend Big Shirley, who underwent a complete physical makeover between seasons that created one of the most glaring continuity errors in Martin's 5-season run. In Season 1, Big Shirley appeared as an attractive and slender woman who showed up at a party in Martin's apartment with her full body and face clearly visible to viewers, establishing her as a normal-sized, conventionally attractive character who seemed like a reasonable romantic partner for the sweet but dim-witted Cole. However, by Season 3 and the character's subsequent appearances, Big Shirley had been completely reimagined as the large, mysterious figure that most fans remember, where she would appear only partially in scenes with her face never shown to the camera, creating a running gag about her enormous size and the way other characters would react with shock or fear when they encountered her. This transformation was so complete that the two versions of Big Shirley were actually played by different actresses, making it clear that the show's writers and producers had deliberately decided to change the character's entire concept. The Season 1 version of Big Shirley bore no resemblance whatsoever to the character, who would become a recurring source of physical comedy in later episodes, where Cole would talk about her impressive strength, enormous appetite, and intimidating presence, while the camera would only show parts of her body or have other characters react to her off-screen presence. This later version of Big Shirley became one of the show's most memorable running jokes, with Cole often mentioning her unusual habits and the other characters expressing amazement or horror at her various exploits. What makes this continuity error particularly interesting is that it represents a complete creative decision to abandon the original character concept in favor of a more comedically useful version that could serve as an ongoing source of physical humor and absurd situations. The show never acknowledged this dramatic change or provided any explanation for why Cole's girlfriend had apparently transformed so completely between seasons, leaving viewers who paid close attention to wonder what had happened to the original attractive woman who had appeared in the early episodes. Fact 11. Movie references hidden in plain sight. In one of the most cleverly crafted inside jokes that ran throughout the entire series, Martin would regularly make comments about movies that featured Tisha Campbell, without ever acknowledging that the actress he was praising or commenting on was sitting right there next to him as his girlfriend Gina. These self-referential moments created a bizarre situation where Martin's character would essentially be complimenting his own co-star's previous work while completely ignoring the fact that she was the same person he was living with and dating on the show. The most notable example occurred in the episode Romeo and Juliet, where Martin mentions The Girl from School Days by Spike Lee as being particularly attractive, referring to Tisha Campbell's role in the 1988 film where she played Jane Toussaint. In another episode where the hip-hop duo Kid and Play made a guest appearance, the character Shanine asks Kid if he would kiss her the same way he kissed the light-skinned girl in his movie House Party, which was again a direct reference to Campbell's role in that 1990 film. What made these references even more surreal was that Martin Lawrence himself had also appeared in House Party alongside Campbell. So the show was essentially creating a fictional world where the actors' real-life filmography existed as entertainment that their characters could watch and discuss, while completely ignoring the fact that they had been part of those same projects. This created multiple layers of meta-humor that only viewers familiar with the actors' previous work would fully appreciate. The writers also included an even more complex example of this self-referential humor when Martin receives a handheld television and comments that he can now watch Def Comedy Jam and The Martin Show, creating a moment where the character Martin is referring to his own television program as if it were a separate entity from the show that viewers were currently watching. These inside jokes represented a sophisticated form of comedy writing that played with the boundaries between the actors' real careers and their fictional characters, creating moments of absurd humor for viewers who were aware of Campbell and Lawrence's previous collaborations, while maintaining the internal logic of the show's fictional universe for those who weren't familiar with film work. Fact 12. Tommy's perfect attendance record. In a remarkable display of consistency and dedication that becomes even more impressive when you consider the behind-the-scenes drama that affected other cast members throughout the show's run, Thomas Michael Ford, who played the level-headed and perpetually unemployed Tommy Strawn, was the only cast member to appear physically in every single episode of Martin across all 5 seasons, making him present for all 132 episodes that aired between 1992 and 1997. This perfect attendance record is particularly notable given the various conflicts, health issues, and personal problems that caused other main cast members to miss episodes during the series' later seasons. Ford's character Tommy served as the calm voice of reason among Martin's group of friends, often trying to mediate conflicts and provide sensible advice while dealing with the running joke that nobody could ever figure out exactly what he did for work. Despite his apparent financial stability and availability to hang out with his friends at all hours of the day, his consistent presence throughout every episode made him a reliable anchor for the show's ensemble cast dynamics, especially during periods when other characters were absent due to real-life circumstances affecting the actors. This perfect attendance becomes even more meaningful when you consider that the show's final season was marked by significant tension and conflict among the cast, with some actors missing multiple episodes due to personal disputes with Martin Lawrence and other production issues, while other main characters like Cole and Gina were notably absent from various episodes during the show's final year. Tommy continued to appear in every single installment, maintaining his role as Martin's loyal friend and providing continuity for viewers. Ford's dedication to the show extended beyond just showing up for filming, as he consistently delivered memorable performances that helped define Tommy as one of the most likable and relatable characters in the series. His ability to play the straight man to Martin's more outrageous antics while still contributing his own comedic moments made him an essential part of the show's success throughout its entire 5-season run. Sadly, Ford passed away in 2016 at the age of 52, and the Martin reunion special that aired in 2022 paid tribute to his memory and acknowledged his important contribution to the show's legacy. Fact 13. Garrett Morris's revenge story. In one of the most unexpected examples of celebrity fans taking justice into their own hands, Garrett Morris revealed in later interviews that after his attacker was eventually caught and sent to prison for shooting him during the 1994 robbery, fellow inmates who were fans of Morris's work decided to deliver their own form of retribution by beating up the robber while he was incarcerated. This street justice came as a complete surprise to Morris, who learned about the incident through various channels and found himself in the unusual position of having fans he had never met taking revenge on his behalf. Morris, who was best known for his work as one of the original cast members of Saturday Night Live and his role as Stan Winters on Martin, had built up a significant following over his decades-long career in entertainment, and apparently some of that fan base happened to be serving time in the same facility where his attacker ended up after being convicted. The inmates who administered this unofficial punishment were motivated by their respect and affection for the veteran comedian and actor who had brought laughter and entertainment to their lives through his various television and film appearances. The actor shared this story during radio interviews, where he reflected on the strange and unexpected consequences of the violent crime that had nearly cost him his life and forced him to undergo multiple surgeries and months of recovery. Morris described the incident with a mixture of surprise and dark humor, noting that he had never expected his entertainment career to result in fans seeking vengeance on his behalf in such a direct and physical manner. This unusual form of fan loyalty highlighted how deeply Morris had connected with audiences throughout his career, from his groundbreaking work as the first African-American cast member of Saturday Night Live in the 1970s, to his more recent role as the eccentric radio station owner on Martin. The fact that people who had never met him personally felt strongly enough about the attack to take action against his attacker demonstrated the genuine affection and respect that Morris had earned through his decades of bringing comedy and entertainment to diverse audiences across different generations and backgrounds. Fact 14. The awkward series finale. The final episodes of Martin became one of the most unusual and technically challenging series finales in television history, as the show's writers and directors had to create a satisfying conclusion to the romantic relationship between Martin and Gina, while ensuring that the two lead actors never appeared in the same scene together due to the legal settlement that allowed Tisha Campbell to return for the finale. Campbell had filed a lawsuit against Martin Lawrence and the show's producers in January 1997 for sexual harassment and verbal and physical assaults, which had caused her to be absent from most of the fifth season episodes. When HBO Studios eventually settled the case with Campbell, she agreed to return to film the two-part series finale under the strict condition that she would not have to share any scenes with Lawrence or interact with him in any way during the production process. This created an unprecedented logistical challenge for the show's creative team, who had to figure out how to conclude a romantic comedy series about a couple moving to Los Angeles to pursue their careers without ever showing the couple together on screen. The solution involved incredibly creative editing and careful choreography where Martin and Gina would enter and exit scenes at different times, with the storyline adjusted so that both characters were part of the same narrative, but their paths never crossed during filming. The directors had to plan every shot meticulously to maintain the illusion that the characters were still interacting and making decisions together about their future, while the actors were filming their scenes separately and potentially on different days. This elaborate workaround resulted in a series finale that felt somewhat disjointed to viewers who were paying close attention, as conversations between the main characters had to be constructed through careful editing rather than natural dialogue between actors sharing the same space. The show's writers had to rewrite scenes and adjust the plot to accommodate this unusual filming arrangement, creating additional complications for what should have been a straightforward romantic conclusion. Despite these significant production challenges, the show managed to provide closure to the Martin and Gina storyline and give fans a sense of resolution, though the behind-the-scenes circumstances made it one of the most technically complex and emotionally complicated series finales ever produced for a network sitcom. Fact 15. Little Shop connection before Martin. The natural chemistry and comedic timing between Tisha Campbell and Tichina Arnold that made their friendship on Martin so believable actually had its roots in a professional relationship that began 6 years before the sitcom premiered, when both actresses worked together as part of a singing trio in the 1986 film version of Little Shop of Horrors. This early collaboration established a working relationship and personal friendship that would prove invaluable when they were cast as best friends Gina and Pam on Martin, giving their on-screen dynamic an authentic foundation that couldn't have been manufactured through acting alone. In Little Shop of Horrors, Campbell and Arnold were part of a 3-girl singing group that performed musical numbers throughout the film, which was based on the popular off-Broadway musical about a man-eating plant and featured an ensemble cast that included Rick Moranis, Ellen Greene, and Steve Martin. The movie was a musical comedy that required the actresses to demonstrate both their vocal abilities and their capacity to work together as a cohesive performance unit, skills that would serve them well in their later television careers. Working together on a musical film gave Campbell and Arnold the opportunity to develop their professional chemistry and learn each other's performance styles, timing, and work habits during the demanding process of filming musical sequences that required precise coordination and multiple takes to achieve the right blend of vocals and choreography. This experience of collaborating on complex musical sequences helped them understand how to play off each other's energy and comedic instincts. When Martin began casting in the early 1990s, this existing relationship between Campbell and Arnold gave the show's creators confidence that the two actresses could convincingly portray characters who had been best friends for years, since they already had a real friendship and professional rapport that dated back to their Little Shop of Horrors collaboration. Their previous experience working together also meant they were comfortable with each other's acting methods and could easily fall into the rhythm of rapid-fire dialogue and comedic exchanges that became a hallmark of their characters' interactions on the sitcom. This pre-existing connection helped contribute to the authentic feel of the female friendship portrayed on Martin, making Gina and Pam's relationship one of the most believable and entertaining aspects of the show's ensemble dynamic.